I never intended to keep my success a secret. Growing up in a modest apartment above my parents' small grocery store, I learned the value of hard work early. Mornings were spent stocking shelves before school, evenings, manning the register while doing my homework. "Jenny, you're going to do great things," my father would say, watching as I carefully balanced the books. "Just never forget where you came from." His words stayed with me through college, where I earned a full scholarship in business and computer science. While others spent nights partying, I was buried in code, developing what would become Revolution Tech, a supply chain management system that would change the industry. By 25, I had sold my first company for $40 million. By 28, my investments had quadrupled that. Yet, I still lived simply, holding on to my father's words. Then I met Michael. It was a rainy morning at my favorite coffee shop, and I was in my usual spot, worn jeans, an old sweater, laptop open, when he quite literally crashed into my life. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," he exclaimed, nearly spilling his coffee all over my workspace. I looked up, meeting warm brown eyes and an apologetic smile. "No harm done," I laughed, steadying his cup. "Let me buy you a fresh one," he offered. One coffee led to dinner led to dating. Michael was different from the wealthy men who had tried to impress me before. He was a mid-level manager at Global Corp Industries, grounded, kind, or so I thought. Everything changed when I met his family. His older brother, James, was Global Corp's CFO and carried himself with the arrogance of someone who believed money equaled worth. At our first dinner together, he barely concealed his disdain as he eyed my simple dress. "So, what do you do?" he asked. "I work with computers," I said vaguely, uninterested in impressing him. "IT support?" He smirked. "How quaint." Michael shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. His mother, Elizabeth, exchanged a glance with James's wife, Victoria. "At least Michael seems happy," she sighed. Over time, the passive-aggressive comments escalated. At family gatherings, I was seated away from important conversations. During holidays, my carefully chosen gifts were met with barely concealed sneers. "Oh, a handmade scarf," Victoria had laughed last Christmas. "How economical." She had no idea it was $500 worth of hand-knitted cashmere. But what hurt more than their words was Michael's silence. "They're just set in their ways," he'd say. "It's best to ignore it." Meanwhile, I had been quietly observing Global Corp. The company had potential, but James's mismanagement was driving it into the ground: wasteful spending, poor leadership, a toxic work environment. Then came the family photo shoot. Elizabeth had arranged it to celebrate James's upcoming promotion to CEO. "The whole family should be there," she declared. The studio was elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. As everyone posed in designer outfits, I stood quietly in a simple white dress. James frowned. "We can't have her in the main photos. It would look inappropriate." Victoria nodded. "These will be in the company newsletter. We have to maintain a certain image." "I don't mind stepping out," I said softly. "See?" James smirked. "She knows her place." Michael opened his mouth, then closed it. Another silence, another choice. That's when Thomas Chen, Global Corp's CEO, walked in. He paused, his eyes widening slightly when he saw me. "Miss J. N." James's head snapped around. "You know her?" Thomas smiled. "Know her? She owns this building, and as of last month," he glanced at me for confirmation. I nodded. "No more hiding. She's Global Corp's majority shareholder." The room fell silent. James's face drained of color. "That's impossible. The majority shares were bought by Revolution Holdings." "My holding company," I said simply. "I've been watching Global Corp for a while. James, your mismanagement has cost this company millions." Elizabeth clutched Michael's arm. "Did you know about this?" He looked as stunned as the rest of them. "Jenny, what's going on?" Thomas answered for me. "Your humble girlfriend has been quietly acquiring shares while your brother ran this company into the ground, and tomorrow's board meeting will be enlightening." Victoria's designer purse slipped from her shoulder. "Tomorrow's meeting?" she echoed. "Yes," I said, my voice steady, "where we'll discuss Global Corp's new direction, and its new CFO." James lunged forward. "You can't do this." I tilted my head. "I can, and I am. In 15 years, you've approved over $30 million in questionable expenses, hired unqualified friends, and fostered a toxic work culture that's driving away top talent. This ends now." Silence stretched across the room. For the first time, Michael spoke. Jenny. His voice was uncertain. I turned to him, waiting. And in that moment, I realized he wasn't standing up for me, he never had. With a small, knowing smile, I stepped forward. See you all at the board meeting. And just like that, I walked out, this time, on my own terms. I remained calm, my voice steady. Would you like me to continue? Elizabeth turned to Michael in a panic. You have to do something. She's trying to destroy our family. But Michael just stared at me, really seeing me, perhaps for the first time. All those times they insulted you, you could have stopped them. Why didn't you? I met his gaze without hesitation. Because I wanted to see who would defend me when they thought I had nothing. And now I know. The photographer cleared his throat awkwardly. Should we reschedule? No, I said, picking up my purse. I believe we're finished here. James, I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m., don't be late. As I turned to leave, Thomas Chin fell into step beside me. That was quite the revelation, he chuckled. I've been waiting months to see James's reaction. Behind us, Elizabeth's voice rose in a shrill command. Michael. If you don't fix this right now. But I didn't turn back. I'd already seen enough. The next morning, I arrived at Global Corp's headquarters early, trading my simple white dress for a perfectly tailored black suit, no designer labels, just precision. As I strode through the lobby, hushed whispers followed. News traveled fast in corporate corridors. Thomas met me at the elevator. The boards assembled. James is, well, you'll see. In the boardroom, tension hung thick. James sat rigid, his usual arrogance undercut by barely concealed panic. 8 board members watched with sharp interest. They had all received my report the night before, detailing Global Corp's decline under his leadership. James shot to his feet. I object to this meeting. This is nothing more than a personal vendetta. I ignored him and turned to Thomas. Shall we begin? Thomas handed out thick folders. Over the past 3 years, under Mr. Harrison's leadership as CFO, we've uncovered serious financial irregularities. The next hour was brutal. Contract fraud. Wasteful spending. Nepotism. A pattern of hiring unqualified friends. As each damning piece of evidence was laid out, James grew paler. This is ridiculous, he finally exploded. She's just mad I didn't want her in our family photos. The board members exchanged looks. One elderly director removed his glasses. Mr. Harrison, are you seriously suggesting Ms. Zhang orchestrated a multi-million-dollar acquisition because of a personal slight? James faltered. I didn't mean. The numbers don't lie, I said coolly. This company has been hemorrhaging potential under poor leadership. It's time for a change. The vote was unanimous. James was out. Security arrived within minutes. As they escorted him from the building, his phone buzzed incessantly, Elizabeth, no doubt. But I had more pressing matters to attend to. Back in my office. Formerly James's office. I was scanning employee reports when a familiar voice broke the silence. Jenny. Michael stood in the doorway, looking lost. We need to talk, he said. I gestured to a chair. Go ahead. He hesitated before sitting, glancing around the massive office. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have changed anything? I asked. Would you have defended me if you'd known I was wealthy? That's not fair, isn't it? I leaned forward. Every time they belittled me, you stayed silent. Every time they excluded me, you made excuses. You chose keeping the peace over standing up for me. He exhaled heavily. I didn't want to make waves. Family is complicated. No, Michael. Right and wrong are simple. You just kept choosing wrong. His phone vibrated. Elizabeth, again. He ignored it. Mom's hysterical, he muttered. Says you ruined James's life. The country club's already gossiping. James ruined his own career with incompetence. I just exposed it. He has a family. A mortgage. Kids in private school. He should have considered that before mismanaging millions in company funds, I replied. But I'm not heartless. He'll get a 3-month severance, more than he deserves. Michael rubbed his temples. What about us? I studied him. The man I once thought was different, kinder, stronger. You know what hurts most? I asked quietly. Not their behavior. Yours. You watched them treat me like nothing, and you let them. I can change, he whispered. You shouldn't have to change to do what's right. A knock at the door interrupted us. Thomas entered, holding a folder. Sorry to interrupt, but we found something else. James approved a suspicious $2.5 million consulting contract last month. Michael stood. I should go. Yes, I agreed. You should. At the door, he turned back. For what it's worth. I really did love you. I met his gaze, unflinching. Love without respect isn't love at all. 3 hours later. Beyond James's financial mismanagement, I uncovered something worse, evidence of him selling company secrets to competitors. Hidden in encrypted emails, offshore accounts. My phone buzzed. Elizabeth. I declined the call and sent a single text to Michael. You might want to hire James, a good lawyer. That evening, as I left the office, a familiar figure was waiting in the lobby. Victoria. Her designer outfit was wrinkled, her usual polish replaced with desperation. Please, she said, voice trembling. You have to help him. We have children. I'm not pressing charges, I replied evenly. But the board might. Those decisions aren't mine alone. But you're the majority shareholder. Victoria insisted, desperation creeping into her voice. That means protecting the company's interests. And James betrayed those interests. Over and over. She grabbed my arm. Our children will suffer. I gently removed her hand. Maybe this is an opportunity to teach them about consequences and integrity. Her eyes flashed with anger. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching the bat destroy our family. No, Victoria. I'm protecting thousands of employees whose livelihoods were put at risk because of James's actions. Your family's reputation isn't more important than their jobs. As my car pulled up, she called out, We treated you like family. I stopped and turned. No, you treated me like someone beneath you. And now? You're beneath me. The difference is, I won't abuse that power like you did. The fallout. The week that followed was nothing short of chaos. James's misdeeds exploded across the headlines. Global Corp CFO ousted amid scandal. Elizabeth's country club membership came under review. Victoria's once esteemed social circle crumbled as quickly as it had formed. Michael tried calling every day. I let each call go straight to voicemail. Then came a text. Mom's organizing a family meeting. She wants to make things right. Please come. I didn't hesitate. No. Some bridges, once burned, should stay in ashes. A month later. Global Corp was thriving. The new leadership revitalized the company. Employee morale soared. Stock prices climbed. Projects that had once languished now had the green light. Then, one afternoon, Elizabeth showed up unannounced at my office. Miss Zhang, my assistant buzzed through. Mrs. Harrison insists on seeing you. I thought about turning her away, but decided against it. Maybe this conversation needed to happen. Send her in. Elizabeth entered, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. The stress of the past month had aged her. Thank you for seeing me, she said, her voice stiff. We need to talk about James. Go on. The board is pressing charges for corporate espionage. His lawyer says he could face serious prison time. I nodded. The evidence is clear. He has children, she pleaded, eyes wide with desperation. Surely you understand family. I raised an eyebrow. Like you understood family when you mocked my simple lifestyle and excluded me from your world? Her cheeks flushed. We were wrong. I see that now. But please, help James. Why should I? She hesitated, then whispered, because Michael still loves you. I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped me. Is that why you're here? To play matchmaker? After everything, he misses you. He's changed. He's standing up to us. Defending you. Too late. Elizabeth's composure cracked. She lowered her gaze. What do you want? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. We were horrible to you. We judged you without knowing you. Please, just help James. I studied her, my silence thick in the air. The board meets tomorrow to discuss charges. I'll present your plea. But don't expect miracles. Thank you, she whispered, almost relieved. And I truly am sorry. As she turned to leave, I added, Elizabeth, next time you judge someone by their wealth or appearance, remember this moment. The decision. The next day's board meeting was tense. After 2 hours of deliberation, we reached a decision. James would avoid charges if he cooperated with investigators and signed a non-compete agreement. That evening, Michael appeared at my door. Mom told me what you did, he said. Thank you. I did it for the company, not for your family. He nodded. I know. But still, thank you. He hesitated. I've been seeing a therapist. Learning why I always chose silence over conflict. Good for you. Jenny, I miss you. I exhaled slowly. The woman you miss never existed. You fell in love with someone who tolerated disrespect. That wasn't me. Then let me know the real you. The real me wouldn't have given you a second chance. His face fell. So that's it? That's it. Goodbye, Michael. Moving on. After he left, I stood by the window in my office, looking out at the city below. The lights sparkled like a million untold stories. My phone buzzed with a call from Thomas about tomorrow's meetings. Life moved on. Global Corp thrived under leadership that actually cared. James found a lower-paying job in another state, far from the spotlight. Elizabeth's social circle dwindled, leaving only those who truly cared for her, not her status. And me? I finally stepped into the light. No longer hiding my success. My father's words still guided me, but now I understood them differently. Remembering where you came from doesn't mean accepting disrespect along the way. Sometimes, the greatest power isn't in wealth or position, it's in walking away. In choosing self-respect over false acceptance. And in letting toxic bridges burn. Looking back, I realized the family photos they wanted would have been a lie, built on appearances, arrogance, and toxic expectations. Instead, I built something better. A life of authenticity. Strength. True worth. The kind of picture that needs no frame.